Hello, shall we see a sample program? But before that, let's go through a small agenda as to how a program has to be written and how you troubleshoot when an error arises. So we're going to see a sample program structure, the terminologies that come along with a program because it's important, the syntax because it has to be a legal structure that has been assigned by Java, the errors that can come out of improper writing of codes, and the kind of compiler output that you get when you get an error. And of course, when you get an error, you need to fix it. And of course, then we'll move on to see a sample program and end the session. Shall we? The sample program structure, as you see, is we have used an access specifier public, a class, and of course a class name, the name of which can be started with a capital letter preferably. Then you have the open curly braces, and every class will have a open curly brace and a closed curly brace. So does a method. So I've opened the curly braces and I have invoked the public static void main method, and I've passed the string as an argument. Then I have opened the curly brace for the public static void main method, and I give a set of statements which could be the actual program that was to be run or the logic of the program that you're going to design. I have closed the curly brace for the public static void main, and of course once again I've closed the curly brace. Now let's look at some of the Java terminologies. The first thing is a class. As I told you, Java is a fully object-oriented programming language. So you cannot run a program, a Java program, without a class. Therefore, class is of utmost importance for you to write a program. So whatever you write inside a class. How many classes can I have in a program? You can have any number of classes in a program. There is no limitation. So if I have 5 classes in a program, then which class am I to run? That's a very simple question that needs to be answered. Like the public static void main method. The main method that is situated in the class is the class that has to be run. So when you name your Java file, you name it with the class name which contains the main method. So that should be the name of your file with the extension of .java. So when you compile it, you will get the same name .class file. Therefore, the class is your module which will contain your executable code. That is why I said name your Java file according to the class that contains the main method. And every program is a class because you're going to run the class file and not the Java file, because you're only going to compile the Java file, but you're going to run the class file. The statements are the executable commands that you usually write in your code. You can write any statement, but it has to be written without errors. So you need to write a program without errors, and if at all there are errors, you should know how to remove it. Then the method. The method in the previous languages that we saw, like say in C and C++, were called functions, but in Java we call it as methods. So what is the usage of a method? You write some snippet of code in a particular method, but you can use that method in any part of your program without rewriting the same code again and again. So you can use the same method in any class, which we'll see in the later sessions. And a special method named main will always be there, except in the case of applets where you'll not have a main method. But the other programs will always have a main method, and this will be the first method to be run in a class file. So these are certain Java terminologies that you need to understand. And you might feel that I've been repeating a lot. Certain concepts I'd be repeating once too often, for the simple reason that having decided to become a Java programmer, I feel that it is only right that you learn it again and again, so that when you write a code in a Java program, you'll write it correctly and not make mistakes. Syntax. What is a syntax? They are legal structures and commands that you give in a Java program. The syntax differs for each and every program, but of course the structure is the same when you compare C++ with Java. However, the syntax differs. Like, they are used as a particular entity whenever you're writing a program, especially in Java. So, the basic syntax is that every statement should be ended with a semicolon as in any other language. And the contents of the class should always occur between an open and a closed curly brace. We're going to see what syntax errors are all about. Syntax errors are errors that is committed by a programmer by typing the wrong form of a programming language. Every programming language has its own syntax which has to be followed thoroughly. If not, the compiler will throw an error. So, we need to write a program without committing errors. But as developers, we are liable to commit errors. And what are the kind of mistakes that we usually do? Maybe we'll type a wrong command. We might not close the command with a proper end of statement symbol like the semicolon at the end of the statement, or we might name a keyword wrongly. In this example, the public class hello program, you can see that the main method has been started wrongly with public being written as public, which is wrong. So when the compiler sees this kind of a word, it will get confused and it will simply throw an error and say, boss, I'm not able to understand what you're saying. And in the next line you can see that the system.out.println has once again been spelled wrongly, wherein out has been spelled as OWT instead of OUT. The system.out, the out is an object for the system class. So the compiler will not be able to understand what you've written, and once again it will throw an error. And at the end of the statement, what you see is an underscore instead of a semicolon. This is also a syntax error which the compiler will throw at you. As you can see in this particular slide, there are two errors, and these errors have been highlighted in your compiler output. Therefore, you will know where the error is and you can correct these errors. How do you fix errors, especially compiler errors? If you see, the Java program or the compiler is a machine or an engine that will check your program for errors, and it has been designed in such a way to read the words or the code correctly. It will not think beyond, because it will not give you the correct way to fix your errors. As you can see in the slide, this public static void main, which is being given in the example, the compiler will throw an error and say, will just give you a marker where you've spelled wrongly. In other words, it will not give you, or it will not tell you, as in the statement that you see below, you spelled public wrongly as public. It will not tell you that, because it is not your teacher. Instead, it will just compile, and if it comes across an error, it will just say, I will not be able to run the program because I have come across an error which has been given in the marker that I have marked. So please correct these errors and come back and compile, is what the compiler will say. Here there are two errors which says that a semicolon is missing, and of course the system.out.println would smell as sweet. The marker that is shown will show where the error actually occurred. So this would be a pointer for you to correct your errors. Now this is an example of a correct program. You have the class hello, you have the public static void main method with the string arguments, and of course the system.out.println with the string literal hello, world. So what we saw today was the sample program's structure, how errors occur, and how errors are to be fixed. So it's time for us to move on to see a small program, write a program with errors, and let's see how to fix it, shall we? Now, I've just typed a program called add2numbers.java. We'll just edit that file and see what I've written in that particular program. I've given class add2numbers, and if you see here, I've typed public wrongly as public static void main, and these double lines or double slashes mean that there is a single line comment. Then I've opened the curly braces for the class and also the method, and I've initialized three variables int x, y, z, and I've also initialized the values for x and y, wherein x is equal to 10, y is equal to 20, and z is equal to x plus y. But please note that I have not placed a semicolon after 20 in the initialization, and I saved the result to z, that is the x plus y values are added and saved on to z. Then the system.out.println says the sum of x and y in as a string literal between quotes, and then I've used a concatenation symbol, which is the plus symbol, and I've typed the variable z. So this line is the output of the value of z, which will come on your console. Now shall we compile this program and see what errors we get? Yes, we'll go to the command prompt. And now we'll see if the Java compiler is working by typing Java C, and of course it's working. Now I'm going to compile the Java file add two numbers dot Java. If you see, there are two errors. add2numbers.java line number 3 and identifier is expected. If you see, I've spelled public wrongly as public, and this marker shows the method which is wrong. And of course, the add2numbers.java in line 7, a semicolon is expected, and you can see it from the marker over here. It says that y is equal to 20 and the semicolon is missing, and that is why it is telling that the semicolon is expected. So the file has not been compiled. Therefore, add2numbers.class has not been created. If we go into the root folder and see, you can find that the add2numbers.class file has not been created. Right. So it's time for us to fix the errors and run the program once again. So I'll go to this Java file and I'll edit it. Now I'm going to correct the errors. So I have typed public and I've placed a semicolon after 20, which were the errors that were shown, and I save this file. Now let me try running this file once again. I'll once again open the command prompt. I'll go to the root folder. Now I type java c add to numbers.java. Now no error has been returned, which means my Java file has been compiled, and if you see, I would have got a class file in my folder, which is a class file, and the add to numbers class is there. Now let me try running this file by typing Java and typing the class name. The sum of x and y is equal to 30 is what you get. I hope you would have understood how this program has worked and how you can fix errors. So happy programming and bye.